You are 31 years old and you are doing the math you should have done at 22. It is not comfortable math. It is the kind you do at midnight with a spreadsheet open and a sinking feeling that keeps arriving in your chest like a bill you forgot to pay. You are adding up what you spent in your 20s, not just the money, the time, the years, the compounding that did not happen because you were not in the market, the Roth IRA contributions you left on the table every year from 22 to 30 that the government would have let grow tax-free for the next 4 decades. You know the number. A 22-year-old who invests $5,000 a year for 8 years and then stops entirely will have more at 65 than a 30-year-old who invests $5,000 a year every single year without stopping. You have read that. You understand it. You wish you had not read it because understanding it does not change it, and now you have to carry the knowledge. This is where you start, not at zero. Worse than zero. Because zero does not know what it missed. You start with regret that has a dollar amount attached to it. And here is the first thing you need to hear before any of the numbers, before any of the framework, before anything else. This is recoverable. Not comfortably. Not without cost. Not without changing almost everything about how you relate to money. But recoverable. The machine is still available to you. It still opens every morning. It still takes whoever shows up. You just have to actually show up this time. Let us be honest about what the 20s actually cost you, not brutal, just honest. You earned money in your 20s. Probably not a lot at first, then more, then a little more. You spent most of it. Not on anything catastrophic, that is the part that stings. You did not lose at gambling. You did not make one enormous mistake you can point to and say that is where it went. It went on rent that was slightly too high because the apartment was nicer. On restaurants that felt reasonable at the time. On a car payment that was manageable until it was not. On weekends that were fun and are now just memories with no financial residue. On a relationship that ended and took $4,000 in furniture and deposits with it. On subscriptions you forgot you had. On convenience, consistently, in small amounts, every single day for 8 years. That is where it went. The average person in their 20s saves between 2 and 5% of their income. Let us say you made $42,000 at 23, $51,000 at 26, $64,000 at 29. Let us say you saved almost none of it in any meaningful invested compounding way. You might have a small 401k from a job that auto-enrolled you, maybe $8,000 in there. Maybe a savings account with $3,000 you treat as a checking account overflow. Maybe nothing. Maybe actually nothing. You are 31 with essentially nothing invested and you know it, and you are in the specific kind of pain that only comes from knowing the cause was you. Here is what that actually means in numbers. If you had invested just $300 a month from age 22 to 30, $28,800 total out of pocket, at 7% annual return, that money would be worth approximately $47,000 right now and growing without another dollar from you. That $47,000 gap is real. It is permanent in the sense that you cannot go back and make it. It is not permanent in the sense that it defines what comes next. What comes next is entirely your decision. Something happens in your early 30s that did not happen in your 20s. The consequences of financial decisions stop being theoretical. At 24, retirement is 40 years away. That is not a real number. That is a concept. A 40-year timeline does not produce urgency in a 24-year-old brain the way a deadline on a project does. The future self who needs that money is a stranger, and you do not make sacrifices for strangers, not consistently, not over years, not when the present self has a social calendar and car trouble and a rent increase coming. At 31, retirement is maybe 30 years away, and it has started to feel like it belongs to you. You have watched your parents navigate their 60s and it looked harder than you expected. You have had a medical bill that reminded you your body is not invincible. You have seen a friend get laid off and stay unemployed for 7 months and you thought, what would I do? You have started asking what would I do in a way you never did at 24. That urgency is the gift your 30s give you that your 20s could not. Not knowledge, you had access to the same knowledge at 22. The felt sense that time is not infinite and decisions have weight, and doing nothing is also a decision with consequences you can now imagine specifically enough to be afraid of them. Use the fear. Do not manage it. Do not talk yourself out of it with reassurances about how you still have time. You do still have time. The fear and the time can coexist. Let the fear be the fuel and the time be the runway. Here is exactly what building in your 30s looks like: every decision, every number, every month. You are 31. You have $4,200 in a savings account, $7,800 in a 401k from a previous employer you have not touched or thought about in 3 years, and $6,100 in credit card debt spread across 2 cards. Your take-home pay is $3,900 a month. Your rent is $1,350. Your car is paid off. You are not in crisis. But you are not building anything. The first thing building in your 30s requires is an honest inventory, not an estimate, not a rough guess. Every account, every debt, every subscription, every monthly output. You sit down one evening with every statement you have and you write down the actual numbers and you feel something between embarrassment and clarity and you let it settle and you do not close the laptop. The clarity is the beginning. You make 3 decisions in the first month. Not next month. This month. Decision 1, you contact your old employer's 401k administrator and roll that $7,800 into an IRA you control. Right now it is sitting somewhere with your old HR department's logo on it, growing at whatever default allocation they set for you in 2019. You move it into an account you can see, contribute to, and make decisions about. If you are under the income limit for a Roth IRA, which for 2024 is $146,000 for single filers, you open a Roth IRA specifically. Your contributions go in after tax and every dollar you withdraw in retirement is completely tax-free. This is the most valuable account available to you and you open it this week. Decision TW. Oh, you commit $400 a month to the higher interest credit card. You will feel this. It means saying no to things. Say no. Decision 3, you set up an automatic transfer of $200 a month into your IRA. Not when you remember. Not when you have extra. Automatic. The day after your paycheck lands before you have the chance to spend it. $200 a month feels insufficient. It is insufficient. But it is not the point yet. The point is the habit, the structure, the automatic motion of the machine. You are not trying to invest your way to wealth on $200 a month. You are training yourself to be the kind of person who invests, and that training will matter when the amount grows, and the amount will grow. Year 1 is the debt year. It is not exciting. You pay off $4,800 of the $6,100 you owe across 2 cards. You put $2,400 into retirement accounts. You save $1,800 into a true emergency fund, a separate account with a boring name and a debit card you do not carry, not your checking account overflow, a separate institution if you need the psychological distance. You did not get rich. You built a floor. A floor is not a ceiling. A floor is what prevents you from falling further. You have never had a real financial floor before. This is what it feels like to build one, less like triumph, more like relief. Relief at 32 is worth more than you knew. In month 14 you pay off the last card. You screenshot the zero balance. You send it to nobody because nobody would understand what the screenshot cost. The $127 you were paying in minimum interest every month becomes $127 that belongs to the machine. You redirect it immediately. You do not let it touch your checking account. Checking accounts are where momentum goes to disappear. You are 33. The debt is gone. The emergency fund has $6,400 in it, enough to cover roughly 2 months of your actual life. The target is 6 months, 3 months minimum, 6 months ideal, more if your income is variable or your industry is volatile. You keep building it. But the debt is gone and that changes the math significantly. Money that was leaving every month is now available for redeployment and you redeploy it the week it becomes available. Not eventually. Not when the moment feels right. The moment is now. The moment is always now when you are starting late. Your income has grown, you negotiated a raise, something you would not have done at 26 because you did not understand that negotiating is expected, not aggressive, and your take-home is now $4,600 a month. The lifestyle did not expand with the income. You held the line deliberately. The extra $700 a month went straight to the IRA and a new taxable brokerage account you opened for non-retirement investing. Same total market index fund. Same 0.03% expense ratio. Same automated transfer the morning after payday. The budget did not change. The balance sheet did. This is the discipline the 30s demand that the 20s did not. You have to watch your income rise and consciously refuse to let your life rise with it, at least not yet, at least not all of it. Every raise is a lever. Levers only work if you pull them. You are now contributing $1,100 a month to investments. 14 months ago you were contributing $200. That is the acceleration that becomes possible the moment the debt is gone and the income grows and the lifestyle stays controlled. Here is what 35 looks like if you started this at 31, without inflation, without extraordinary returns, assuming a standard 7% average annual return on investments. The IRA that started with $7,800 and received consistent contributions is now approximately $38,000. The brokerage account you opened at 33 holds $19,000. The emergency fund is fully funded at $22,000, 6 months of your actual life sitting still, not for investment, for insulation. Your net worth is real. It is yours. You built it in 4 years starting from a negative position, and you can feel the solidity of it in a way that the person who inherited a head start cannot entirely feel, because you know what it cost you specifically. Every dinner you did not have. Every upgrade you declined. Every month you held the line when the line wanted to move. You are not financially free at 35. You are not wealthy. You are stable, building, and pointed in the right direction, which is further from where you started than it sounds. Most 35-year-olds are somewhere between anxious and in denial about where they are. You are neither. You have a spreadsheet that tells you exactly where you are and you open it without dread. That is not a small thing. That is a different relationship with reality than you had at 31. Somewhere around 33 the comparison problem arrives. You have a friend who started their Roth IRA at 23, contributed every year, never touched it. They are 35 now and their retirement account alone is at $94,000. You have $38,000. The gap is real and it is visible. And if you look at it wrong it becomes a verdict. Here is what it actually is. The gap is the cost of the 20s you had. You cannot close it entirely by 65. You might close it partially. You will build something real regardless. And more importantly, you are not in a race with your friend. You are in a race with the version of yourself that keeps doing nothing. The version who sat with the $4,200 in savings and the credit card debt and the untouched 401k and did not act. That is the opponent. Not your friend with a 12-year head start. The comparison problem is a trap specifically designed for people who start late. It takes the momentum you have built and reframes it as inadequacy. The momentum is real. The inadequacy is a story. You can only run the race from where your feet are standing. At 33 your feet are standing at $57,000 in net investable assets, zero debt, and a machine that is running and accelerating. That is not nothing. That is actually something significant. The gap exists. You built something anyway. Both things are true. Here is what the personal finance content almost never tells you because it is harder to make into a graphic. You are better at this in your 30s than you would have been at 22. Not because you are smarter. Because you are more specific. At 22 investing is abstract, a good idea you understand theoretically. At 32 it is connected to a real fear, a real goal, a real understanding of what your life actually costs and what it requires. You make better decisions under those conditions. You are less likely to panic sell because you have experienced actual financial stress and you know the difference between a bad month and a catastrophe. You are more likely to negotiate your salary, cut the expenses that do not matter, and protect the investments that do, because you have context now that you did not have at 22. The person who starts at 31 is not just a slower version of the person who started at 22. They are a different investor, less romantic about it, more functional, less susceptible to hype, more committed to boring consistency. They have been burned by the gap between how things feel and how they actually are, and that burn is a form of calibration. Fewer catastrophic mistakes over 30 years matters more than a head start you threw away. Also your income is higher than it was at 22, probably significantly higher. The $200 a month contribution at 22 is proportionally more painful than the $1,100 a month at 33 because you are earning more. The power of starting later is that your earning capacity has grown. The cost is that time has shrunk. The job is to throw the earning capacity at the time problem as aggressively as possible for as long as possible. The next decade, from 35 to 45, demands three specific things from you. First, it demands income growth. The math on starting at 31 requires more dollars going into the machine than the math on starting at 22 because you have fewer years of compounding available. The most direct way to put more dollars in is to earn more dollars. This means actively managing your career in a way you possibly did not in your 20s, developing skills that pay more, negotiating raises you are entitled to, considering lateral moves to companies that will pay you what your experience is worth, building a side income if the primary income has a ceiling you can see clearly. The stock market will do what it does. Your job is to feed it more. Second, it demands protection. In your 20s, financial protection was optional. In your 30s, it is structural. You need a will. You probably do not have one. You need disability insurance that covers your actual income if you cannot work. You need your emergency fund fully funded and genuinely untouchable. You are building something now. Built things can be destroyed. You insure against the destruction before the destruction has a chance to arrive. Third, it demands patience with a shorter runway than you would like. This is the hardest part. There are investment strategies that promise to run the machine faster, and some of them are real and most of them are not, and all of them require you to evaluate them without desperation. Desperation is the specific vulnerability of the late starter. The person who knows they are behind is susceptible to shortcuts in a way the person with a comfortable head start is not. The shortcuts mostly do not work. The boring path consistently executed remains the path. You are 45. 14 years of building from a standing start at 31. You have been consistent, not perfect, consistent. There were 2 years when the contribution slowed because life required it. 1 year when the market dropped 22% and you held everything and watched $34,000 disappear on paper and put in your monthly contribution anyway because that is what you do now. You held. You contributed. You did not panic. You did not sell. Your retirement accounts hold $340,000. Your brokerage account has $87,000. You own a home with $110,000 in equity, bought at 38, later than most, and you stopped caring about later than most around the time the equity passed $60,000. Your net worth is $537,000. Your income is $118,000. You max your 401k every year. You are on track to retire at 62 with enough, not lavishly, but genuinely enough, which is not a sentence you could have said at 31 and certainly not a sentence you expected to be able to say at 45. There is a version of this story that ends in regret. The version where you do the midnight math, feel the weight of the wasted 20s, decide the gap is too large to close, and do nothing. That version exists. People live it. It is not the only version. There is another version, the one where you close this video, open the brokerage account, set the automatic transfer, and decide that 31 or 33 or 35 or 38 is the youngest you will ever be again. And you start there. From exactly where you are. With whatever you have. The machine does not ask how old you are. It does not ask where you have been. It does not require you to have started at 22 or to have made better decisions in your 20s or to have been anyone other than who you are right now, tonight, reading this number and feeling the weight of it. It opens every morning and it takes whoever shows up. You have spent enough mornings not showing up. Tomorrow is a different decision. Make it.